In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you a few ways that I'm going to be celebrating the Spring Equinox, or Ostara, however you like to celebrate. So get yourself a nice hot drink, settle back, relax and enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope that you are well and safe and looking after yourselves. So I am preparing for the Spring Equinox at the moment. I'm getting very excited because there's a little bit more sun and everything's feeling a little bit more hopeful despite terrible things that are happening in the world, of course. And so I'm just trying to keep myself uplifted. This is the first time I've actually sat down and filmed, I believe, since everything started happening in Ukraine, and I feel like I need to say something because it's something that I think about a lot. But I am trying my best to generate love from within and to spread that as much as possible. So I feel like what I can do is to pray, obviously light candles, donate. So I've been doing all of that and then, you know, trying to raise awareness. But beyond that, I'm trying to protect my energy and trying to not take it all on, because as a mum of two, I have so much empathy and feel very sad about everything that's happening. And if I watched all the news reports and if I thought about it all the time, which is kind of the natural default right now, if I didn't try to distract myself, I think I would not be able to cope. So I'm doing a lot at the moment to focus on self-love and love radiating from the heart center, the heart space. And if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen some work around that I've been doing, and it's really important work for me anyway, and I think for mental health, etc., it's just been really important. And especially right now, I really feel like I'm just trying to cultivate this love, self-love, and sending love out into the world as much as possible. So I had a download recently. Quite frequently when I am in that hypnagogic state between sleep and waking, I hear messages and I see visions. Usually it's one or the other. Sometimes it'll be a period of time with the vision and then a period of time with the messages, and oftentimes the messages come so fast and it sounds and feels like external voices because it's not my internal voice, but often they're talking over each other, so it's quite hard to discern, and I have to do quite a lot of work to make sure that I am protecting myself as I'm in that state. So I tend to do a lot of protection work before I go to sleep anyway, because I know I need that. So I want to be able to discern where the messages are coming from. But I had a very clear download a couple of nights ago that was to be the love you want to feel and be the love you want to experience. It was because you want to feel all this love, so be that love. And it was a very clear message for me and very uplifting and very beautiful. So I wanted to share that. I'm not sure why I was called so much to share that. But when I was planning this video, there were lots of things that I wanted to kind of speak about and lots of things that I wanted to be able to do, you know, to share what I'm doing for this season, and I don't think I can do them all, but I would like to try to do as many of those things as possible. So this is going to be kind of a vlog, and I would really like to talk a little bit about the Spring Equinox and Ostara, and then I want to share with you some of the practices that I'm going to be doing. So first of all, I'll just talk a little bit about the Spring Equinox. It does feel like a really hopeful time, of course, and especially with everything that's going on, like I said, I feel like it's something that I need right now, my spirit needs. But in terms of the pagan wheel of the year, which was brought together as a pagan calendar, as it were, in 1974 by Aidan Kelly, and very much popularised within Wicca. So Spring Equinox is also referred to as Ostara, which is probably how you've heard it referred to a lot. So the Spring Equinox, like the Autumn Equinox, marks the time when the days and the nights are approximately the same length. Obviously that's not going to be the same everywhere on the planet, but it's as approximate as possible. And the days do shift slightly, but this year the date is falling on Sunday the 20th of March, and it is going to be at 3:33 UTC on Sunday the 20th of March. So that is really the moment that sort of marks that approximate point. Many of you are probably aware of the Wheel of the Year and celebrate those sabbats as well. Essentially there are 4 quarters, which would be your 2 solstices, your summer and winter solstice, and your autumn and your spring equinox, as well as then your cross quarters, which are also known as the greater sabbats, and these quarter days are known as the lesser sabbats. Those cross quarter days are also Celtic fire festivals, and there's a lot of historic background that comes from Ireland and the different Celtic countries. So that just gives you a little bit of context there. But what's interesting about Ostara, or the spring equinox, as well as Mabon, the autumn equinox, is that there's not so much in the way of historical information that we can draw from to know really what happened and how things were celebrated. Because whilst the solstices and the greater sabbats had real ancient pagan celebrations surrounding them, a time of spring and the time of the autumn equinox, there's not really a lot of historical information to back up that there was really, you know, historical festival celebrating that time. That's why there's often discussion around Mabon as well as Ostara, and the reasons why Aidan Kelly gave those particular names to those sabbats, to the autumn equinox and the spring equinox. I actually prefer to call them the autumn equinox and the spring equinox because I am not personally a Wiccan, and I feel more aligned with just referring to them as the spring equinox or the autumn equinox. But it's completely up to you. You don't have to be a Wiccan to celebrate with the pagan wheel of the year and use those terms. It's just something that I naturally find myself referring to it as the spring equinox. So Aidan Kelly, I believe, named Ostara in 1974 after the Germanic fertility goddess Eosta. And that was with reference to something that the historian monk Bede wrote in The Reckoning of Time in the 8th century, that the Anglo-Saxons did refer to that Germanic goddess when referring to the spring holiday. So that's kind of a little bit about where that name may have come from. And between the 18th and 19th century, Jacob Grimm developed the story around this goddess Ostara that was related to fertility, rebirth, growth, generation, and along with the association with eggs and rabbits and new babies, you know, new farm animals. And that very much ties in along with our modern day secular celebration of Easter, which is a lot about Easter eggs, the Easter bunny, rabbits, and you see like little lambs, and you see those cute little chicks that they sell in the shops and all of that. And it's very much like the secular holiday of Christmas. So I really, really do love that secular side of Easter and that celebration, and being able to celebrate that with family. And it is a beautiful time to, you know, bring your children, if you do have them, or young children within your family, into crafts and things that you can do as a family together. It's a really beautiful time for that. And of course, Easter is a really, really important time for Christians as well, because Easter Sunday is the day that Jesus was said to have been resurrected. And so for that reason, there is symbolism as well that comes in around this time of year that relates back to Jesus dying on the cross. So you have, for instance, hot cross buns, and many Christians still attend church and celebrate Good Friday. And when I was at school, I went to a C of E, Church of England school, and it was very much, we learned about that around this time and we celebrated the days. I definitely learned like that, but I think that now a lot of the schools are much more secular, which I'm very supportive of, because there are a lot more religions and children from all kinds of religions. If you know my channel and you know some of the things I've talked about, you might know that I do have a background in the Christian church and I do still work with Jesus. I would not call myself a Christian, though some people might say that I am, because I work with Jesus and I still have that spiritual side of my practice. But personally, I feel I'm a witch, but I also feel that that's my spiritual practice as well, and it is a religious practice as well as like a operative craft for me. That's just a little side tangent. If you want to know a little bit more about that, I have some videos that I will link that talk a little bit about that, but I've never really gone into it in depth on my channel. But I do have a relationship with Jesus anyway, as well as one or two other deities, but I wouldn't really call myself a Christian because I do have some trauma from being within a Christian church. So yeah, it's complicated, and I know that it's probably complicated for a lot of other people. So obviously spirituality is so personal to everybody, and I would never presume to tell anyone how they should or shouldn't practice or what they should believe. I just ask the same courtesy, really, and the fact that I'm sharing what I'm sharing here, I just ask that the comments are kept like polite and respectful of me and everyone else sharing below as well, because I really want this to be a safe space, and so far it pretty much has been. But I just want to say that as well, because obviously talking about religion and such is contentious for some. So yeah, I just wanted to make that little note as well. But anyway, moving on. This is a book I absolutely love, which is A Druid's Herbal for the Sacred Earth. Yeah, I mentioned this in my in bulk video as well, and this is focused on Irish Celtic mythologies. Here there is a quote from Algernon Charles Swinburne from When the Hounds of Spring, and it goes as follows: "And frosts are slain and flowers begotten, and in green underworld and cover, blossom by blossom, the spring begins." I think that's really lovely. And then E.E. Cummings, "Since feeling is first. Holy to be a fool, while spring is in the world, my blood approves." So in Ireland, I really hope someone who speaks Irish, Hazel Jane Tower, I'm looking at you, will be able to correct me, because this I don't think I'll be able to pronounce. It looks like mean Earraigh. Well, I know I've said that wrong, but that is the spring equinox. And obviously it talks here about all of the symbols that we know of: rebirth, fertility, immortality, egg laying, eggs, fresh furrows, and spring planting, etc. So it says here, in some communities, eggs are hidden in the stores of seed grain and left there all season to bless the sowing and encourage the seeds to sprout. Dressed as mummers, pace eggers go from house to house and demand eggs and coins in return for a short performance. Men and women exchange clothing for the show, which sounds a lot like trick-or-treating, and I believe that this kind of practice happens around that sort of time, around Samhain time as well. But I think that's really, really interesting, demanding coins and eggs. The eggs are given to pace eggers, have been wrapped in leaves, roots, flowers and bark before boiling to impart colour. Later the eggs are used in games, such as attempting to strike an opponent's legs. The eggs might be hidden or rolled down hillsides, after which they're eaten. Blood, ashes from sacred fires, fistfuls of salt or handfuls of soil from high mountaintop are scattered on newly sown fields. Offerings of food and milk are left for the fairies and other spirits who live in and around the rocks and are responsible for the fertility of the land. I think in many agricultural communities that would be the way that it would be celebrated, that, you know, you'd make those offerings to the land. And certainly at Bealtaine that happens as well, so that there's that offering to the land and the idea of making love on the earth as an offering to Mother Earth, to the gods, to the fairies, to the spirits, to give an abundant harvest for the summer ahead. So we're just starting to see all of that. Sacred hilltops are visited and picnics of figs, fig cakes, cider, ale are enjoyed, and figs are obviously a symbol of fertility as well, the leaf being the male element and the female being the fruit. There is an emphasis here as well on fertility, and often it does come at it from this gender normative perspective, which is not so relevant and not so helpful for many. I think sort of taking that outside of the context of it as well is really important, because fertility doesn't necessarily mean that you're giving birth to a baby or bringing in new life in that way, but breathing life into a project, something creative. And as well, with this time of year, creating art and magic with painting, drawing, using eggs, crafting, and certainly this time of year is a beautiful time to craft, to create. That is just something to be aware of as well as we move further in. And definitely Bealtaine, there is a lot of this talk around fertility, but from like a gender perspective, and it's really, I think, important to be mindful that there is nuance there. So I'll just say that I am definitely not the person to be speaking on it, because I certainly don't know enough. But if you're interested, then Laura at Aquamarine 18 recently posted a video which was in response to, I believe it was Katie Flowers' original video, where Katie discussed several points, and one of them being the Empress card often being portrayed as being pregnant. And obviously that's not always, but sometimes, you know, the Empress is pregnant, and while that's a problem for some, it's not necessarily a problem for others. But Laura has a fantastic way of discussing these gender binaries in a way that's really understandable, but obviously very considered. Laura's done a lot of research and just really very eloquently can explain that. So if you're interested in delving into that topic a little bit more, I can leave that link below, because that really was a fantastic video. I would definitely recommend that you go and watch that if you've not seen it. One thing that I wanted to talk about here, because I do work with Morrigan, who is an Irish deity, and in this section of this book it refers to Aengus Og. I may have butchered that. Aengus Og was the son of the Dagda and the goddess Boann, and it is said that time stopped when the Dagda and Boann were together, because Boann was, I believe, engaged or married. Elkmar, Boann's husband, was under an enchantment whilst they had like a year of love and joy with their son. Aengus Og is supposed to be a god of love and fertility and youth and joy, really, unconditional, abundant love, you know. Aengus, son of the dawn, and the Dagda are the deities associated with Newgrange, Brigid, and the great solar temple in the Boyne Valley of Ireland. While the Dagda plays a harp of oak, Aengus plays his harp of gold to the young and blows kisses which engender amorous desires. So there is a little bit of like a Cupid aspect, I feel like, to Aengus Og, which is really, really interesting, making people fall in love with each other, this youthful, hypnotic sort of thing. We're sort of like coming into this season that's really heady, and it kind of reminds me of like the Midsummer Night's Dream. Obviously that would be like the summer solstice, but still like the seedling of that, setting the tone for like what's ahead. But again, very, very, very much like gender norms, so just throwing that out there again. The female aspect of this festival is personified by Boann herself, and sometimes equated with the River Boyne. A legend claims that Boann sprang into being when the goddess Boand was disrespectful of the magical wells of Seagas. I can't say that. I should learn how to say that. Boann is known as she of the white cows. It is worthwhile to remember that Brigid was raised on the milk of a white cow with red ears. And some say that Boann may have been Brigid's mother. And some say that the Morrigan is Brigid's mother. I kind of feel like Boann may have been her mother. That is the sort of vibe I get, but who knows? It's kind of up for debate. I feel like Boann would be more of the mother to Brigid. I love this book because then you get these lovely associations with different herbs that you can work with at each Sabbat, the herbs of the Spring Equinox. So you have acorn, calendine, cinquefoil, dandelion, dogwood, honeysuckle, iris, jasmine, rose, tansy, and violet. Then you have the magical uses and the parts to use. So acorns being fertility and luck. I absolutely love using acorns in like abundance workings, and I often will forage for them, and I will keep some in each of my pockets and put some in my bags and keep some on my altar spaces as well, and I just dot them around and blow my intention into them, hold them, and I find them really, really great for that kind of working, like good luck, fast luck, abundance, prosperity. So for some of these as well, you have homeopathic uses. So for dandelion tea, for instance, it can be used for the liver, headaches, jaundice, night sweats, neuralgia of the knee, sores. Dandelion tea is also said to increase psychic abilities. There's also beautiful elemental air magic you can use with dandelion, of course, where you get to blow the puff away, and that's just really, really beautiful for wishing, manifestation magic. I do actually have a short on my channel about dandelions, so I will link that as well if I can find it. Jasmine is one of my favourite florals to use. Again, there's herbal uses here, that it calms the nerves, increases erotic feelings, and different things that you can use it for. Rose, really, really beautiful. I have to say, I use rose so frequently in my practice for self-love and joy and abundance and prosperity, and also you can use it for protection because you've got those thorns as well. So there's so many uses for it, and I absolutely love it for self-love workings, like primarily. I use it a lot in spiritual baths, use it in candle spells and oils, and here you can use the rose hips or you can use the actual rose petals. As long as they are culinary, you can use them in baking, you can make syrups, and I have a little kitchen witchy project that I want to do today where I am going to bring in some beautiful roses for, again, self-love. So it says here, rosebuds are added to a bath to conjure a lover, place some in a red cloth bag, pin into your clothes, worn as beads to attract love. There's so many different ways that you can use rose in your practice, and it's one of my favourite things to use. Tansy, also for Imbolc as well. Herb of immortality and longevity, and violets, again, herb of love and protection. So there's so many things that you can use, and it depends what your intentions are. So for this time of year, I love to start planting. Because my husband and I moved into this house in sort of autumn time, we want to see how the land is during the summer, and our garden is north facing, so I want to see where the sun falls and get an idea about that before we, you know, dig up the land and put beds in and such, and plant trees and things like that. But I'm going to work on pots mostly, but I am going to be sowing some seeds during today's vlog, so I'm very excited. And in the past I've done a lot of these kind of workings where I will plant my intention along with the seed, and that's often been really, really, really beautiful. And I really, really like using an actual eggshell for that. I think that's really, really beautiful, but I want to do several today, so I'm going to be doing them in a tray. In the past I've done them in trays as well as in a little egg, just symbolic, but today I just want to keep it simple, so I'm not going to be using the egg, but that is a really, really beautiful thing to do. All you have to do is crack the egg and try and crack it like closer to the top so you can get the bottom bit, and try and make it sort of a clean break. So if you're making scrambled eggs or frying an egg or something like that, you can keep that. And then what you want to do is wash it out, just be really careful with it, dry it out, and then you can peel away the membrane from the inside, and often if you get it right, it will peel all the way in one, and then you have your egg. And what you want to do is really, really carefully use a little pin and just create a hole in the bottom so that you've got a little hole so that the water can filter, and you just want to put a little bit of potting soil in the bottom, and then whatever it is you're planting, I've used herbs before, so basil or some parsley is lovely, just anything you want to plant basically that is close to what you're trying to bring in. So something like if you want to plant a little bit of mint, if you want to grow your business or grow a bank account, you know, that kind of thing. You can set intention for that. Or a plant like basil, you know, if you wanted to use that again for money, you could, or in prosperity, abundance, or something along the lines of love if you wanted to use basil, you know. So, you know, whatever correspondences you have for your herbs, whatever you feel that you want to call in, so go with that. I think using this kind of spell for culinary herbs is really, really lovely, and I really, really enjoy it. So definitely do that if you feel inclined to. Kitchen witchery, things like poppy seed loaves, honey breads, enriched doughs with milk and sultanas and honey. Just be mindful if you're making offerings to the fae or spirits of the land about what you're leaving out. You want to be careful with dried fruits, and obviously don't put salt on the earth because that will harm wildlife. Again, no chocolate because that's harmful. Be really, really mindful about what you're putting out, but something like honey cakes is really, really lovely. Things like pancakes, if you want to make an offering of like honey and milk to the fae, or something like mead, is really, really beautiful as well. I may or may not make an offering to the fae this time of year. I don't tend to work with the fae really because I don't really feel the need to. I do tend to make offerings around Bealtaine for the fairies, and I think that honey and pancakes, milk, those kinds of things are really, really lovely, and they love them. They really, really love them. And mead, things like that is just really, really beautiful. So if you want to do that, you can do that at this time of year. Just be really, really mindful, be really, really respectful. Many people say don't say thank you, so I probably wouldn't do that just because lots of books say not to, so I wouldn't say thank you. Instead, you can say that you really, really appreciate them, something like that. And don't be stingy as well, because they like abundant offerings. So if you want to do that, you can. I always think any time of year, any Sabbat, a lovely thing to do is a nature walk, observing the trees, observing the plants, the fruits, the flowers, the herbs, everything around you, and how it changes. I mean, because we've moved, even though we've just moved, you know, 10 minutes down the road, we're in a completely different place, and this was once just fields. So it very much feels like someone has literally just like churned up the land and plonked a load of houses here. So since we've lived here, I haven't had a great many wonderful experiences, I must say. The land feels quite barren and quite, oh, I'm going to be honest, it feels quite sad in a way. And I have connected with a couple of the plants that are in our garden, which I talked about in one of my previous videos. It's a black nightshade and a wild lettuce, and we are getting rid of them because we have 2 small children and it's not good for them to be near them, and with the animals as well. I did connect to those plant spirits, and they were quite chaotic, and they didn't seem very generous of spirit, especially the wild lettuce. I think the black nightshade seemed quite like alluring and it wanted some attention, but the wild lettuce was just like, no, just, I'm really gonna mess you up. It's just like if it could speak. Working with those plant spirits was interesting. But taking a walk around your surrounding and, you know, really connecting to the land, and maybe keeping a journal about what you see, taking photographs, doing some meditation by a beautiful tree that you always go to, spending time near a river. I think I'll probably like to go up to the woods, which we always take walks around the woods and the forests, and I think that's where I'd like to go because that's where I feel at home, and that's where I feel like I've had some really, really beautiful experiences with the trees and the land. So that's probably where I would go rather than really close to home. You can forage for anything that you find, obviously leaves and roots and twigs and stones. You can collect and any seeds as well. We're getting these lovely buds. There's a beautiful like Japanese blossom tree on the school run, and the beautiful flowers have these little furry jackets that my daughter is obsessed with. So she's literally been foraging them from the ground and like keeping them in her bedroom, and it's so cute. So you can collect things from nature. If you're foraging, just be safe. Make sure you know what you're foraging for. Make sure you're wearing gloves, etc. Make sure that you are cutting the plant correctly so that it can grow back. Make sure you're not taking more than like sort of 20%. I usually go 15, but just really, really minimal. Keep it to a minimum. Make sure you know what you're foraging for, and be 110% sure what the plant is before you touch it. And absolutely before you ingest it, do your research. Do a lot of research in books. I have a lot of field guides. I have a lot of correspondence books, of course, that are more witchy, but field guides that are absolutely not witchy, but really, really vital. A lot of those, but then getting an app as well, like a plant identifier app. Picture this, I've also got Seek. They're both very good, and I definitely use those a lot, and I really enjoy using them as well. It's just nice to be able to check if you see something that you think is really lovely and you maybe want to plant that and you want to find out what it is. It's really, really handy, so that then you can go and find that plant. But it's nice to take a note of like what you find and know what's out there. So as I mentioned before, you can bake. I really want to make some hot cross buns this year. I have made them quite a few times in the past and my family always love them. They always go really fast. So I think I'm definitely gonna do that. I don't know if I'll manage to do them within this vlog or not. If not, then I will definitely share them on Instagram. But that is one of my favorite things to make. And then decorating eggs. I mean, it's lovely if you can boil some eggs, prick a little hole and then blow out the egg, and then you can paint the eggs, and that's really lovely. I've also picked up those like wooden eggs before from craft shops like The Works here in the UK, and the kids absolutely love painting on those. I think that's what we did last year and the year before. Like, we painted these wooden eggs and hung them up, and I gathered a load of these beautiful branches and then I hung up the wooden eggs on that, and it was just lovely. It was in our kitchen, and it's just really joyful, really nice to do crafts like that. And of course you can get things like wooden bunnies and things from Hobbycraft or The Works, that's in the UK, but obviously in the US or wherever you are, you'll have probably hopefully a craft store near you where you can pick some of these up, or there's always Amazon, of course. Cardboard like cutouts of like bunnies and stuff that kids can paint. Pinterest is amazing as well because there's often like little crafts that you can do with things like pipe cleaners and like little googly eyes, and you can do things with your hands and turn them into different things. Like you could do your handprint, turn it into a bunny, and just things like that. Like, I always see that reindeer one at Christmas, and there's just loads of like really good ideas like that where you don't actually need a lot of things. You don't need to go and get wooden crafts or anything to do it, but you can just look on Pinterest and find a craft that works for you with the stuff you've got, you know. My kids always love an Easter egg hunt, and of course we do that on Easter Sunday. Yeah, Easter Sunday we'll probably do an Easter egg hunt, and in the past I basically cut out lots of pieces of paper. I made like clues, and then what I do is I have like a hamper with their eggs in them, and then I hide the little clues, and they have to go on this like wild goose chase finding the eggs, and it's quite fun. So that's good. But if you don't have time to make all of those, you can literally buy a pack, and I think like all of the chocolate brands, they do them within like an egg pack. You can literally buy Easter egg hunt pack, which is quite handy, which I might try and do this year as well. So I do think I still have those clues somewhere. I need to fish them out, but that was fun. The kids love that. So there are so many ways that you can celebrate, and it really comes down to you and what you feel like doing, what speaks to you. You know, if you work with a deity and you want to honour that deity, you want to paint or draw, or you know, you want to get out and play music outside or sing or gather with some friends and meditate, you know, whatever feels right for you and an alignment for you is the right thing. I often feel like I should have like a plan for whatever I do, but then I don't plan it because I have an idea of what I want to do, and then when I actually go to it, it happens organically and naturally. Especially rituals, they sort of happen organically. Even when I do have a plan, something happens that's different, and it ends up being so beautiful. So I just want to encourage that as well. And I think that like just following your own magic, following your own heart is like so beautiful, especially this time of year, you know, which is all about creation. And with the current astrological aspects, we are really having a lot of fun with that creativity, with Jupiter Cazimi and Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, and then their conjunction with the Sun. So yeah, just really lovely. I would really encourage you to look into where Jupiter in Pisces is in your chart, in your natal chart. So you can download your natal chart from astro.com and figure out which house Jupiter in Pisces is in for you, and that is the area where you're gonna have a lot of creativity. For me, it's in my 5th house, and it's funny because my husband was like, we're not having any more babies. But yeah, I really feel that it's coming out in another way because literally we're about to get a puppy. So that's kind of a massive spoiler. I've been making like little hints, but we're literally gonna have a puppy, and probably in the next video you will see the puppy. So yeah, there's other things happening. I'm very much excited and embracing this time of year. I really feel ready for it. I've been doing a lot of healing work since Imbolc, and as I said, a lot of self-love. Really important for me. So it's a really beautiful time. So any kind of magic you want to do, I think if you want to do meditations with crystals that you can use this time of year, again, I'm probably gonna just say my favorite ones because yeah, I'm wearing amber at the moment, and I really feel like actually amber for the spring equinox really works. This is associated with the goddess Freya. She absolutely loves amber, so it's a really lovely way to honor Freya. But yeah, I love rose quartz, I love amethyst, and these are definitely crystals that I would work with at this time of the year because they're beautiful pastel tones. But I would just go with whatever you're called to. I wouldn't go out and buy crystals. A lot of people already have crystals. I think if you're going to buy crystals, make sure that you're going to an ethical source, or that you're getting secondhand crystals. I think that's just something that I would do these days. You know, if you haven't got lots of crystals, but many of you probably do, so just work with the crystals you've got. You know, you don't need to buy lots of stuff. And if you don't have lots of crystals and you don't want to buy any, then that's great. Just, you know, find some shells, go to the beach, find some local shells, some pebbles, you know, hag's stone, you know, whatever you can find that works for you, that speaks to you. And just, yeah, let your magic shine, follow your magic. So I have rambled on a lot and I want to get going because I want to do some planting and some witchery. So I'm gonna go and do some spring equinox stuff. So let's go. I am sucking a sore throat sweet because the talking somehow makes my throat really hurt. So if you hear something clanking around my mouth, that's what it is. I have these seed trays and I want to sow just one thing today, and that is mugwort. And I have never sowed mugwort before. I've used mugwort a lot in my practice, and it's something that I would really like to have in my garden. Now, from what I've read in Harold Roth's book, The Witching Herbs, it is probably a better idea that they are in the ground, and I think they like the cold, so I think they'll be fine to go straight outdoors. So that is my plan for these. If you know better, please tell me, because I am not like the best gardener. I kind of just manage to keep most things alive, and I would say that I am green witchy in the way that I use herbs in my kitchen craft, so kitchen witchery, and green witchy in the way that I use herbs to make oils and spells and such. Today I want to sow these seeds, and I'm going to do so with intentions for creating my flying oil and just getting more focus out of my divination practice, out of my dream time practice, and out of my astral travel. Because I feel like a lot of the times things come through and it's confusing and it's not always clear, and then things come through later. And I know that that's sometimes how it is for even professionals, but you know, I just want to start to get much more focus in my divination practice, whether or not I'm scrying or, you know, working astrally, receiving messages, downloads, channeling, or even using the tarot. You know, that's where I want to hone. The cat's come up on the table. And I really feel that actually with Jupiter and Pisces and the conjunction with the Sun and Neptune and such that we're going through right now, it's in my 5th house. That's a lot about creation and joy and creativity, passion and drive. That's the cat. Real passion and creativity, things that you enjoy, but also sensuality, fertility in that kind of way. But this is what I would like to manifest. And there's a lot of things I want to manifest, and there will be other ways that I'm doing that. For instance, around the spring equinox, but I don't want to go in with too many intentions. This is such a raw vlog. Oh my goodness. Pussycat. So another reason I feel like a really, really bad green witch right now is because I have no idea where my trowel is. Since we moved, I don't know where it is. I have a glove though, so I'm going to be just using my hands because that's magic, right? Anyway, and I'm just doing it in the kitchen table because it's really freezing outside. So I'm just going to use multi-purpose compost. There's probably something better I could use. I'm not an expert in this area at all. I'm learning, so don't come at me. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just doing my thing, being my witchy self. So this is something I've wanted to do for a really long time, but I've been waiting. I was waiting to move first. Then I was waiting till after the winter solstice. And then I was waiting because it was still really cold and I didn't feel like it was the right time. What overwhelms me about, you know, gardening and plants is that they're all so different. So you can learn so much about one plant, but you still will get it wrong. And I guess that's what a lot of people I know will tell me. That it's taken years to understand, you know, the lay of the land in their gardens and how certain flowers and plants and herbs and vegetables that they grow work. So what I do know about Artemisia vulgaris mugwort is that it's surface sow from late winter to early summer in a greenhouse. So this is how they look. They are really, really tiny seeds.
Really, really tiny seeds.
So I've set my intentions and I've sown those seeds just on the surface of that. I've grown things like basil and parsley a lot, and thyme and rosemary and things like that a lot because my parents taught me how to grow those kinds of herbs. I've never grown mugwort before, I've never grown wormwood before or anything. And obviously, as I said before in that previous video and earlier on about the black nightshade and about the wild lettuce. I've never really grown anything like that. And so, you know, having it is quite interesting, and working with the plant spirit was certainly enlightening and interesting. So that's the whole packet. These were really inexpensive. I think I picked this up online. It says heirloom and perennial. I'm just going to set my attention for these as well. I just realised I said, as I will it, so it is, and I love the sow as a pun for sowing the seeds. I was going to put these outdoors, as I said, but because it says here in a greenhouse, I think I will put them in the garage. So I'm going to give them a little bit of water, put them on a tray, and put them in the garage. I'm very cautious. I don't want to like over water them. I know it said not to let them dry out, so I think I will check on them every day or so and see how they're doing. And I think probably every few days, I think I'll do a little bit more research about growing mugwort from scratch and see what that yields online. So yeah, I'm going to put these in the garage. Isn't that just a beautiful, beautiful mess? This is like my witchery when I was a kid. Like, this is how it used to look, like pots of soil. I used to do a lot of this kind of stuff in my grandma's garden and in my parents' garden as well. Just like, they'd give me a trowel and like some soil, and this would be like how it would look. So funny. So I'm taking this to the garage. So I've taken the mugworts to the garage, and I've put them right by the window and the back door so they get lots and lots of sunlight. We're north facing, so they probably won't get that much sunlight, but they will get some light, which is good. I'm going to tidy this up and then do some kitchen witchery. So I want to make a rose-infused honey. Now, I've always loved honey so much, and when I was 15, I discovered something I absolutely adored, which was strawberries and honey, which is sounds so simple, doesn't it? But literally just this really, really dark, rich, raw honey with strawberries dipped in the honey, and it's just so sensual and erotic and delicious, and it's literally like the perfect aphrodisiac kind of food. And because I've been doing a lot of self-love work recently, I've also been reading up about a lot of different sex magic techniques and tantra, and doing a lot of tantra breath work and working on a lot of that for myself as well as with my husband. I feel like this is just the perfect thing that I wanted to make. I do want to make hot cross buns as well, and I probably will do that. I don't have time to do that today. For today, what I have planned is to just infuse honey, and I want to do a long infusion. So the reason I want to do a long infusion is because this is raw honey, and this is from Dart's Farm. This is a local farm to us here in Devon, and it's one of my favourite places to go, honestly. The food is amazing. So this is raw honey from the Dart's Farm hives overlooking the Clyst Valley, and I haven't tried it because this is brand new, but I am going to be infusing mine with these beautiful rosebuds, and these are obviously food grade. I picked this up online at Eco Pebble, and I do have some rose petals already. They are organic, they are tea culinary grade, but I have stored those in my herbal apothecary that I use to make my oils and my incenses and using candle spells and such. So I just didn't want any cross-contamination. So I'm very strict with that for myself. So I decided to just go with this route and just pick up these. And also they're so beautiful. Look how beautiful these rosebuds are. Oh my goodness. So we're going to do a long infusion because this is raw honey. If it wasn't raw honey, it wouldn't matter so much, and you could do a fast infusion, which would be heating the honey, but you wouldn't want it to overheat. You wouldn't want it to go above a certain temperature. You can look into that if you want to do a fast infusion, but basically because you want to keep beautiful antibacterial properties within the honey and that antihistamine aspect to it, you know, because obviously you can treat a lot of ailments and allergies by consuming honey that's local to you, and this is just a few miles away from us, so that's so beautiful. But because it's raw, I really don't want to heat it at all, so I'm just going to do a slow, long infusion, which, you know, ideally is sort of 3 to 4 weeks. So what I'm going to do is just put this together now with you, and afterwards I'm going to be using this honey for self-love workings. I'm going to be using it in teas. I'm going to be using it in some of my hot chocolates, which I make with oat milk and raw cacao. Sometimes I also include some like really, really dark chocolate as well. I play with my cacao. I've included some CBD before in my cacao, which has been lush. I also like to use some reishi powder as well. That's like a mushroom, ashwagandha as well sometimes. So adaptogenics for health and for calm, and hormonal stabilizing mushrooms and adaptogenics I also use. But so I probably will play with making some cacao with this. I want to do my strawberries with honey with this as kind of like an aphrodisiac for my husband and I. Bring in some of that sex magic, that gorgeous, sexy time stuff. And yeah, it's self-love. I've been using a lot of rose and I've been feeling the energy of the rose. You know, I've been working with Mary Magdalene a lot and I feel just that rose energy a lot coming through for me and that divine feminine. I very much lean into my divine feminine and I need that because my Mars is in Capricorn. I'm very driven, very focused. Whilst I do feel a lot, I allow my feelings to come out. I sometimes do not ignore those feelings, but I bulldoze over them and I sort of try to put things into action, not to avoid feeling it because I feel it anyway, but just to get stuff done because I know I have to, and I kind of push myself very far and push myself a lot to get a lot of stuff done, and in a creative way as well. But I think that creativity is also sinking into creativity. Doesn't just have to be action and making in terms of creation. Creativity can be receptive, it can be feeling. And that's what I really want to sink into here as well. And I've been using a lot of rose petals in self-love workings, candle spells, in oils, in baths, spiritual baths, sex magic, again, for myself, for my husband. So I'm in this energy and this just really works for me right now. So I've been talking for a long, long time. I'm going to get on and just make this honey. Oh, I wish that there was smell-o-vision and you could smell these. I decided to put them in one of my Royal Doulton plates because these are vintage and just gorgeous and they have a lot of beautiful energy around them, like loving energy from my family. So I just thought I'd, you know, give these beautiful rosebuds the love that they deserve. So I'm just going to infuse some of my intentions into this for the things I've talked about. Then I will get on with infusing the honey. So I also want to blow my intention into the rose petals as well. So this is a 700ml jar. There's about 340 grams of honey in there. So I'm going to fill this with the plant matter and it all goes flying. Just thinking about the intentions that I have for this beautiful honey and how it is going to make me feel, how it's going to make my hubby feel, how it's going to affect my energy that I'm directing outwards. So I have my roses already in here and it's just like under halfway full really, and I just thought of another way that I really want to use this, and that is in some wine. So I love drinking red wine, I love drinking white wine. Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand or Australia is my absolute favourite. Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, and I just think a little spoonful of this honey in some wine with like some strawberries is going to be so beautiful as like a love potion for you know what sort of time. So I'm really excited for that. I'm going to add the honey now and I'm so super excited for this. Oh my gosh. And of course I'm going to be reusing this jar. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, I have never smelled anything so good. It's so floral, like it smells absolutely divine. So I'm just going to hold my hand over the honey. I'm going to speak words of intention now. So I'm going to pour this now. Oh my gosh, this is just incredible. So I'm just going to use a chopstick here to help the honey sort of go in between the roses, and I think there's actually probably quite a lot of roses here. Probably didn't need quite so many, but this is the first time I've ever done this. I am not going to waste what's in there. I have clean hands, so I'm just going to try this. Wow, that is actually really strong. That is beautiful. Tim, come try this honey. Try that. It's really strong, isn't it? It's like really floral. Pretty incredible. So there's quite a lot of roses in here to honey. I was just doing it by eye and probably too much, but what I think I might do is go and get some more of this honey and then top it up. Then hopefully I'll be able to strain it out a little bit better because there's a lot of roses and I think that's going to be really, really strong as well. How beautiful is that? Definitely to include that in like tea and include it in wine, beverages, and even to bake with as well. It'll be delicious. It looks amazing. So now I'm going to leave this honey on the windowsill to infuse. I'm going to leave it for 3 weeks, and tomorrow I think I'm going to go get some more of that honey. This was fun. So I really, really enjoyed spending some time with you. I really hope that you've enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, go ahead and post a little bunny emoji in the comments. I'd love to see that. And tell me what you're doing for the Spring Equinox or for Ostara, however you like to refer to it, however you like to celebrate. I'd love to hear what you're doing, what you've got planned, what you've already done. Let me know, I'd love to hear. If you'd like to connect to me, I have an Instagram page and a TikTok, which is not very active, I'm afraid. Sorry, the cat. Oh. I also have a buy me a coffee page if you'd like to go over there and donate a few coins so that I can have coffee just to say thank you for what I create here and what I share. If you like the video, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, share with anyone who you think would also enjoy it. And if you've been watching and you're not yet subscribed, please do subscribe because that way YouTube will offer up my content to other people and we can continue to grow the community, which I love, and I'm so grateful to be cultivating a community like this. So thank you so much. So please do subscribe, and while you're subscribing, don't forget to hit that little bell notification because that's how YouTube will let you know when I create and upload videos just like this. So with all that said, thank you again so much for joining me. I hope you stay well and safe. Have a really, really blessed Ostara or Spring Equinox, and if you're in the Southern Hemisphere as well, have a wonderful Mabon and Autumn Equinox. So many blessings. Stay well and safe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.